Welcome back to this channel, you beautiful people, where we discover and talk about theology, philosophy, and honestly, how to be human. I'm Nolan. Let's get rolling. Today we're going to be discovering theology versus philosophy and why it matters. Or rather, why it matters to me, and I think it should matter to you too. Let's start with some definitions. I'll throw them up on the screen here as I talk. First big definition is going to be in the Greek. So we're talking about both of these words because they are from the Greek as we know them in English. Greek of theo means God, and ology means study of. Theology, by the direct translation, simply means study of God. Philosophy is a little different. Obviously, there's no ology there, so there's no studying of something. However, philosophy itself does study ideas and considers thoughts, but in a different way. So the true Greek understanding of the word philosophy comes from the Greek philo, meaning love of, and then soph, meaning wisdom, right? So we can start breaking down the definitions of what God is and what it means to love wisdom and the definition of wisdom, but that's not why we're here today. Why we're here today is to discuss what does it matter, why are they different, how are they similar. Now, I was brought into this conversation because I've had people ask me before. First of all, there's some obvious blaring differences. God is in one of them. Wisdom's in another. Isn't God wise? Is there a God? Okay, so we'll get into all that. Going back to our definitions matter, specifically in philosophy. In the study or discussions of philosophy, we always like to start with definitions. The first definition of theology in the dictionary. This is right here on a Google. You can look it up. Theology, the study of the nature of God and religious beliefs. Philosophy, let's look that one up. It reads as the study of the fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered as an academic discipline. Okay, dictionary and Google goes off of a less concise understanding of these two topics and broadens them. I'm not going to be getting into too much as to what I agree with or disagree with about these definitions. We'll just kind of accept them as they are. So, what makes them different? I say it's the questions. They both love and ask questions. Overall, they ask different questions. Some of them overlap, but we'll get to those in a minute. Let's run down two categories: theology and philosophy. Theology asks, who is God? What is God's nature? Is he loving, angry, human, plural, gods, singulars, God, one, right? Monotheism, polytheism. Theology in itself asks about the very nature of God. How does this being or beings interact with us? And then how do humans communicate and interact or relate to this being or these beings? And so on and so forth. Questions like that. Philosophy likes to ask open-ended questions that are seemingly deeper and not so related to God or the nature of God or gods in themselves. Celestial beings and divination and all that jazz. Quite different. Philosophy asks, what is anything? Why is anything? And how can I relate to that thing? How do I understand the nature, the very essence of that thing? It also asks things like, do I exist? And what is existence? Earlier last week, I put this question on Facebook. What's the difference between philosophy and religion? Some really great points and stories were shared. For example, this person wrote that they've never really considered that philosophy and religion might be the same thing. To which I respond, I don't know if I had either, until I had this question proposed to me. On top of this, we can read that they actually bring up the idea that both seek fundamental truths about ourselves, our world, and each other, to which I agree with, especially in context of what religion might also be. Now this one wrote and focused on how it relates to living, which is the overall point of the nature of philosophy. How does it relate to life and me and acting it out? How are they similar? So I said the questions is what makes them different. However, the questions are also what makes them similar. But how do they get mixed up so often? In their questioning, both have sought to answer one fundamental question. What is the good life? Good meaning moral, ethical, or virtuous. The side question that tags along with this question is, how can I know for certain and am living it out in practice? Both realms of thought try to answer this. They get at it with different means, sometimes similar means, and sometimes even the same means or combining the two. Many have sought to answer this question.
Plato, Aristotle, Socrates.
I am by no means an expert. Other humans in the past centuries have expanded upon this question far deeper and far more methodical than I have in my lifetime currently, at the age of 26. They've given this problem a lot more thought than I have. They've all done it through expanding on previous humans' beliefs and understandings, just like I'm doing today. Everything I know is because humans have done it before me. Some include God in various ways and meanings. Some choose to exclude a divine spiritual entity or being. Others through history have decided to take a different approach altogether and say that they have had direct encounters with these celestial or divine spiritual beings. Since this video has a focused narrative in depth for the question, what is philosophy versus theology and why does it matter, I'm not going to be getting into any of those. If you want my beliefs, my personal understandings on these topics, you can feel free to drop a comment down below. Click on the Amazon affiliate link in my description for my book, where I have a section at the end that talks about my philosophical understanding of reality, as well as my thoughts on the church. Or you can set up a video chat with me through the comments down below as well. Personally, I would love a video chat, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well, and see what your perspective is on all these topics and what all this means to you and how you relate to it. To go back to our main topic, these subjects have their own landmines or questions that make one feel like they're going to explode. One of the most famous and prominent movies that discusses philosophy, reality, and all these thoughts out there that should come to mind is The Matrix. It immediately comes to my mind when I think about philosophy, reality, understanding of perception.
What is real?
It forces one to do a really good job of asking the questions that are so essential to being human. How do I live that out? How do I understand this world I'm in? How do I move forward in life? How do I change this world that I'm in, or rather change myself in relation to this world that I'm in? What does that mean? The Matrix forces oneself to come to grip with the very nature of reality itself, and if one's mind or perception can be trusted. All this to say, they are different fields entirely, yet bring in a central overlap, asking how we should live our lives. Let's get to the deep question. What does it matter? And why should it matter to me? And why it matters to others? There's a reason that both of these have been discussed, debated, and talked about for centuries. Now that question, what does it matter, is a question I, nor anyone else, can answer for you. I have met very intelligent people that were not wise in how they lived. Some of those people choosing to involve theology into their journeys and others not. But I've also seen the reverse. You can be wise, but what does it take to really be intelligent? And what does that mean, and how do I live it out? These topics, these two big topics, are for you to explore. The biggest point in seeking how one might consider where to begin in asking and answering the questions about why and how am I to live can start with a word that I hold dear to as a human: virtue. Whether you agree with one another or not, valid points can be made. Like this one that we were talking about earlier, the Facebook post. We need to learn how to agree and disagree and discuss things in a healthy manner, without belittlement or censorship. I hope this conversation so far has helped clarify the differences between philosophy and theology and helped give light to some similarities. Especially in the year 2021, by now, we should know how to discuss things and disagree with one another in a healthy manner. These discussions are becoming more and more increasingly difficult to have the more and more our society has not known how to make proper conversation. Agree or disagree with me in that point, drop a comment down below. And while you're down there, please hit the like button, subscribe, and my wife and I also have a vlog channel and Instagram, so check us out there as we have major life events happen pretty frequently. I also have a gaming channel I use loosely with videos still on it from a younger version of me. Some of those are quite old and from a very early time in my life when it comes to understanding personal relationships, outward appearance, and YouTube. And remember, you are appreciated, as it takes a community to grow together.